Welcome to our deep dive into the digital dilemma. What happens when supervision apps like monitoring or management tools contradict official mandates such as laws, policies, or contracts? In this video, we will explore why these conflicts occur, who is affected, and how to practically respond. We'll also include diagrams, scenarios, and quizzes to help you solidify your understanding. Let's begin. First, we will define the problem space and the key terms. Next, we will contrast official mandates with how supervision apps actually behave. Then, we will map the flow of conflicts and walk through realistic scenarios. After that, we will evaluate risks and stakeholders. Moving forward, we will provide a step-by-step response plan. We will also share a practical policy toolkit. Along the way, we will include quizzes to reinforce learning. Finally, we will summarize key takeaways and conclude. Before we proceed, here is a crucial disclaimer. This video is for informational and educational purposes only and is not legal advice. Because mandates and regulations vary by jurisdiction and institution, you should consult with qualified legal counsel and review your organization's governing policies and contracts before taking action. With that clarified, let's continue. Now, setting the stage, supervision apps are designed to monitor, filter, or manage devices, users, and data for safety, compliance, or productivity. Meanwhile, official mandates such as laws, institutional policies, collective bargaining agreements, and contract terms set the rules for data handling, consent, transparency, and due process. When app defaults or vendor practices contradict those mandates, you have a digital dilemma. Next, we will clarify what these apps typically do. In practice, supervision apps often install an agent on user devices that communicates with a vendor's cloud service. Admins control policies through dashboards, pushing commands to devices, collecting logs, and receiving alerts. Common features include content filtering, keyword alerting, remote lock or wipe, and analytics. Integrations with identity systems allow centralized control across users and groups. With this functionality in mind, let's contrast it with official mandates. Official mandates typically emphasize consent and transparency, restrict data collection to specific purposes, and impose access controls based on least privilege. They also require retention limits, processes for data deletion or correction, and due process for investigations. Accessibility and non-discrimination may also apply. Additionally, contracts with vendors require compliance with applicable laws, security controls, and audit rights. Now that we see both sides, let's visualize where conflicts arise. This flowchart illustrates a typical conflict path. It begins with an app default enabling broad data capture. We then check that behavior against the official mandate of Simonio. If it is compliant, operations continue. If not, we identify a violation risk and notify an administrator. Options include reconfiguring the app, disabling the offending feature, or escalating to the vendor for a fix. If the issue remains unresolved, an exception request may be considered under strict controls. Documentation and auditing occur throughout. This structured flow helps teams respond consistently. On the left, mandates focus on purpose limitation, minimization, explicit consent, due process, retention limits, and equitable access. On the right, many apps ship with broad telemetry, course controls, silent feature updates, and automated triggers that may skip due process. They also keep long retention logs and sometimes impose usability trade-offs when controls are tightened. Understanding these differences clarifies where redesign or policy reinforcement is necessary. This risk matrix frames the impacts if an app overrides mandates. Individuals may face intrusive monitoring and chilling effects. Administrators risk policy violations and personal accountability. Institutions face legal sanctions and reputational harm. Vendors risk contract breach and loss of trust. Communities experience erosion of confidence. Severity often trends high, while likelihood depends on configuration and oversight maturity. Consider these scenarios. In a school device program, keyword alerts might trigger intrusive searches without due process. In BYOD workplaces, an app may collect personal messages beyond its defined scope. Parental controls on shared family devices can conflict with consent requirements. A silent update could enable new data capture, not covered by current policy. Finally, vendor support may request log exports that exceed retention limits. Next, let's test your understanding with a quick quiz. Question: when a supervision app's default behavior conflicts with an official mandate, what principle should guide your resolution? Options: A. Prioritize convenience and keep defaults. B. Follow the official mandate and reconfigure or disable conflicting features. C. Defer to vendor guidance in all cases. D. Let majority opinion decide in a meeting. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Official mandates set binding requirements. Therefore, the app configuration must be adjusted or features disabled to comply. Vendor guidance is useful but cannot override laws or policies. Convenience or majority preference is not a valid basis to disregard mandates. This sequence shows the flow of an incident response. A user reports a conflict. The administrator preserves logs and evidence, then consults legal or compliance. A vendor ticket is opened to request a configuration fix. The vendor provides remediation guidance. The administrator then reconfigures the app or disables the problematic feature. Stakeholders are informed, and the entire process is documented for audit. Follow these steps in order. First, preserve evidence by exporting logs and capturing timestamps. Second, minimize harm by disabling or geofencing features. Third, map the specific mandate clauses to app behaviors to identify misalignment. Fourth, reconfigure to least privilege and minimum data. Fifth, involve legal or compliance personnel. Sixth, open a vendor ticket and request a patch or granular controls. Seventh, update policies, standard operating procedures, and user notices. Finally, document everything and run a post-incident review to improve future handling. Next, let's reinforce the first action you should take. Question: what is the first action you should take upon discovering an app contradicts an official mandate? Options are A. Notify social media. B. Preserve evidence and logs. C. Uninstall the app immediately. D. Announce policy changes without review. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Preserving evidence ensures you have an accurate record to analyze the issue, determine scope, and support remediation and audit requirements. Uninstalling immediately may destroy evidence. Announcements or public disclosures should occur only after proper analysis and consultation. Here is a practical toolkit using Markdown for clarity. The minimum configuration checklist emphasizes purpose limitation, disabled high-risk features by default, least privilege admin roles, retention limits, and audit trails. Example notice language clarifies scope, references policy, and directs questions appropriately. Vendor contract clauses should include granular controls, no silent data expanding changes, timely notifications, audit rights, and deletion commitments. Governance guidance calls for quarterly configuration audits, impact assessments on new features, stakeholder reviews, and incident drills. Now let's broaden our view with stakeholder mapping. This Mindmap places supervision app conflicts at the center and radiates out to key stakeholder groups. Legal and compliance manage laws, policies, and contracts. IT and administrators handle configuration, telemetry, and access. Users experience the system directly, raising concerns about consent, privacy, and equity. Leadership balances risk appetite and reputation. Vendors control features, updates, and support. The community expects trust and transparency. Effective resolution aligns all these interests. This pie chart visualizes accountability distribution in a typical organization. Policy owners carry a significant portion for setting rules and governance. IT and administrators manage configuration and enforcement. Vendors share responsibility for providing compliant features and transparency. Legal and compliance guide interpretation and oversight, while audit independently verifies adherence. The exact percentages vary by context, but the shared nature of accountability is constant. The main takeaways are straightforward. Official mandates determine acceptable behavior, and apps must conform. Defaults often collect more than necessary, so minimize and reconfigure. Preserve evidence at the outset of any incident. Contracts should prevent silent changes that expand data collection. Finally, regular audits and clear user notices are essential for sustained compliance and trust. To wrap up, we examined how supervision apps can conflict with official mandates, explored realistic scenarios and risks, and identified the roles of stakeholders. We outlined a step-by-step response plan and shared a practical policy toolkit. The quizzes and diagrams were designed to reinforce your understanding. As a final note, always align technology to policy and law, not the reverse. Now let's close with a quick thank you and a call to action. Thank you for watching. If you found this valuable, please like the video, share it with colleagues, and subscribe for more practical guides. We would love to learn from your experiences. Share in the comments what conflicts you have encountered between supervision apps and official mandates, and how you resolve them.